Welcome back to a Nigerian's perspective. I have a special guest with me in the house today, Tokes Ikumelo. Tokes, long time.
Nice one, bro.
How you doing?
Good to see you again. Yeah.
Excellent. So today we're going to be talking Nigeria, particularly about our democracy and how we are faring with democracy. We've had a few stints at democracy, but the latest stint we had was from 1999, what some people call the fourth. Is it the fourth democracy or the fourth republic?
Fourth Republic.
Yeah, so some people call it the fourth republic. So, Tokes, what can you tell us a little bit about your background and how it relates to Nigeria's democracy or your passion for Nigeria's democracy?
Right. My passion, really, background. I'm a student of history. I love the fact that there's nothing new. There's so many. The histories. If you don't know where you're, like the Yoruba would say, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going.
Yes.
So the critical, the essence of being, or the essence of the nation, is to know your history. It might help you to navigate where you're going to. So I'll take it from there. So then you talk about democracy. I think we need to strip it back a little bit beyond what is democracy. In the real sense, or in the sense of Abraham Lincoln, democracy or democratic government is of the people, government of the people, by the people, for the people. So looking at it in that context, I'll say what we seem to call democracy in the Nigerian context, I think is an illusion.
You think it's an illusion?
I think so. I think it's an illusion in the sense, and I say respectfully, not to cast disparity on our people, but it's an illusion because are we actually practicing real democracy? Whether it's the Fourth Republic, I can talk more of the Fourth Republic because I've only been in this, I'm old enough to understand the dynamics of it. The rest of history, but history doesn't lie. Even from the other previous democratic attempt that we so-called had, it was still an illusion because this is being ruled by this so-called elite. And I will come to that later, but I don't want to jump the gun. But I just want to unpack what we mean by the word democracy. Of the people, so people, our representative is meant to come from within us, right?
Yes.
Okay. By the people, meaning that we, or the people, elect their representative to represent them in government.
A consensus?
A consensus.
Right.
So that consensus, I think there's a fault line. There's a fault line in the way Nigeria democracy system works. Yes, we are a multi-party system, tick. We are not seen as a autocrat, question mark. Single party system, I believe so.
Even though we have two or more parties.
Well, when two or more parties engage and the only one party trumps and everybody else seems to maybe move across to the other party, there's only one system. Yes, we may not have it the China way, but we have a system that means is a state capture and one person, winner takes all. Whether he's, without mentioning any names, whatever party is as a central, most of the other parties, they come to the party. So there is no concept of representative of the people because the people that put you there, put you in the party A, but suddenly you're in party B, with an election, with the mandate of the people. So what does that translate to? So I think I'm probably jumping around a little bit, but I think to take this back for me personally, when I call it illusion, because it's really, I want to unpack that illusion that we call democracy in Nigeria or in any part of the world, even be it America. This is money politics. This is where money is involved, where we're trying to raise funds for a political party in order to get to the center, to have the power. Then there's always going to be what I call power to the highest bidder. When I say that, there are 4 pillars of democracy, or to any democratic system.
Okay.
So the first pillar is legislator. You and I have been around long enough to see or to know, how does legislature, how has it worked for us or Nigerian populace? How has it worked? You never elected your legislators. They're selected, whether through the party system. The party that gives you those legislators a selective process. That process is not free and fair. The second pillar of this legislator is the executive. The executive is even more compounded, because whether it becomes a 2-leg race or race, the system that gives you a PDP frontrunner or APC frontrunner or any kind of frontrunner is being decided by the delegates. The delegate does not involve you or I or any other common man. So that is not of the people, by the people, because the system that tells you, here is the best people, 2 people, APC, PDP, you got 2 of the best bunch or bad bunch, whatever you want to call it, and you're left with that choice. Was that really a choice? Was that your representative? So this is why I say strongly that the executive arm of government, whether it's the state government or the central, the system that brings forth those is faulty. The third pillar that I refer to as one of the strong pillars is the judiciary.
Judiciary. Okay.
Judiciary in the system, and as a student of history, has failed democracy in a big time. You do not win an election and decided upon by the judiciary. Judiciary is in the hands or pocket of the executives. So you can see straight away you're living an illusion of democracy, because the judiciary becomes the umpire. Whoever they say wins on the day, not the voters, decide wins. So there's a mirage going on. And lastly,
the fourth one.
The fourth one for me is the media. So if every single one of those pillars did what they were supposed to do, then you can talk to me about democracy. The media is the fault line completely. The media is in the hands of the other 3 pillars. So
you believe the media is being used as a tool?
The media
instead of being a separate and
rather than being the pillar that monitors, that holds people to account and show us what is really true. But a lot of our people, or executive, or the big mannerism, the oligarchies in the Nigerian state, own a media company. So the spin or whatever you hear is exactly where they want you to play, or where they want you to fall in line. So these are my very strong point when I said democracy in Nigeria, or in any country for that matter, but focusing on Nigeria, it's an illusion.
Thank you very much. So if you're joining this channel or this video for the first time, please subscribe and like, but let's get back to it. So, you said a lot of things there. You honed on so many different themes. You talked about the 4 pillars. You talked about you will get to the 4th Republic.
Yeah.
Now, I want to understand, or from my understanding of history, we didn't always have democracy. So before going into why it's an illusion, can you briefly tell us or explain what happened in Nigeria? And now I know that Nigeria wasn't always Nigeria. Nigeria was a name given to the country for the region of the peoples that inhabited that area or that part of Africa. And I know it's a loaded question, but I think it will help the listeners to understand what was happening before, what changed, and then we can now do a deep dive into why it's an illusion, and perhaps what you would consider to be maybe some takeaways for how things should be. So we're going to talk about how things are, and we're going to talk about how things were before things changed to democracy. So over to you.
Wow. So pre-democracy, our forefathers existed before this imported democracy, or whatever we call democratic government. We've always been a democratic community. Africans, Nigerians, or from my culture, Yoruba culture, we were probably one of the very elite people that had their own system of government. We might have never called it a name, perhaps they did. But the point is, we had a system of government that suited our way of life, our way of being. What is government? What is democracy? It's about the dividend of having tolerances, ensuring that there's parity and equity in how we live and abide by certain rules. We had all of those before we had this so-called amalgamation of the country, different tribes being bonded together
against their will.
We had those. So Yoruba culture, we have our compound. You had your immediate, your nuclear family. Then you have your extended family. Within that, you have what we call the compound. They call it what's the Yoruba word that escapes me now? Is your compound name, your compound family. There is a leader. There's a patriarch. There's a patriarch system. Not always men. Surprise, surprise. But there's a patriarch system. There's also a system outside of that, which is outside your compound, which is led by the elders. And outside of that, you have the village elders, the village leaders, the baales, then to the crown kings. And you had the empire, like the old Oyo Empire or all the other Yoruba empires. These had functions. Oyo-Ile. All of these had the chiefs. They have the Oyomeses. These are the kingmakers. So there were processes, there's balances and checks. So the executive arm of government that we so-called had was the crown king, but he wasn't a dictator. He wasn't allowed to be a dictatorship because he has the chiefs to check and to have the checks on the king.
So he would have to carry them along.
He has to carry them along. So what we have about the parliamentary style of legislative, the House of Rep and House of Senate, is no new thing. It was just a different packaging. But we had it quite functional within our heritage, within our community, that I believe historically worked, and they were quite successful. The Oyo Empire, it was very successful. It was not only successful in terms of the growth and financial power, it was successful also in the military field. So the military government did not exist. They were warriors. They worked for the king. They were soldiers. So a number of things that worked together, even when we had the wings of war, the soldiers or the warriors were allowed to own slaves or whatever it was. But things worked for the society, the community, quite well. Unfortunately, we had what you would call the period, the Dark Ages, where we were being ruled by or governed by the British. So a lot of those things changed, and what we had now, 1960 onwards was
bringing it back to
the modern days, or what we call where the history supposedly started from Nigerians, but we existed before Nigeria came into being, is what was being handed down as democracy. 1960, we got independent. 63, we had the elected. 1960, we had an elected leader, or was he elected? Dr. Nnamdi
as president.
And
Tafawa Balewa
as the prime minister. But then that was short-lived. Eventually, 1966 major coup by Major Kaduna Uzegu. So these key junction in the history, how we went from the illusion of the democratic system into another system, which was the beginning of the military era. once the military tasted power. Remember what I said about in the days before colonization, we had our warriors. They did one thing. There was only one function, which is you go and fight and protect the land.
Yes. And defend from
And
external
defend
attacks.
external attacks.
Yes.
But suddenly, the military decided they want a taste of power. And I think that created a different illusion, a different problem. And when you look back at our history, it's just been the same thing. When I say this leads me to our oligarchs, the oligarchies, they're ruling the military elites and the wealthy elites amongst us. And it's been the same since 1966, even to the so-called Fourth Republic. I say that in a manner of what I've seen played out. Since 1999, we can categorically hand on, if we start counting it from Obasanjo. Obasanjo became president straight out, whatever the circumstances were.
Yes.
Or let's start from how he was handed power by Abdul Salami. Obasanjo took power first, the democratic government. He handed over to the late Musa Yar'Adua.
Yes.
You said Shehu Yar'Adua,
Yes.
not the general, but his
brother, Musa
Yar'Adua.
Yar'Adua. Yeah. Of blessed memory.
Of blessed memory.
Yeah.
And the one person by accident, I believe, was Goodluck Jonathan, based on what happened around the sudden death of Yar'Adua.
Correct.
Right? That was probably not by default, was just by accident that hand of God played out. And you still call that democracy, even how we got to that power. Goodluck, single term president. We're back to the oligarchs again in Buhari. Buhari is one of the oligarchs. What is an oligarch? We use the word oligarchs in the real sense.
I was going to ask you, what is an oligarch?
The oligarch is not just a term that we've gotten accustomed to with the Russians. Oligarch simply means the military elite and the rich elite who control the resource and how people are governed. It's a carcass of those powerful people. The few elite. It's an elitist group, but they're very efficient. I said they're very efficient. I've just been naming how Baba Obasanjo got there. He was a selection. It was by selection. Whatever election did to, but I can't remember how things panned out then, but it's a selection.
You talked about in 1999.
1999.
Okay.
There you go, Yar'Adua. Yes, he was probably another selection arrangement by Obasanjo that brought Yar'Adua in after his failed third term agenda. Then we had the incident of Goodluck Jonathan. Then you have Buhari, who thinks was his rightful place to be Nigerian's president again. 8 years, 2 terms president. And now we have another oligarch, and I'm not saying a military oligarch, but we now have Baba Tinubu again, now, who is a very powerful man. Might not be in the military caucus, but he is within his own right. They're all the same oligarchs. So we haven't had a true democracy. You might have an illusion of election. So when I mentioned those 4 pillars, now put those 4 pillars into the election, the last election we had, or Nigerian had, it played itself out very well. The selection process of the PDPs and the APC, the election that brought MELO in, the primary elections, was that a selection? Or was that truly democratic process? So when I say that with a sense of purpose and duty to say, wake up. People are not self-organized enough. We are not self-organized enough because you allow a system to play out. And every 4 years, you're back to the same. Oh, it's a democratic government. We go to the polls, and the result of the polls is not exactly what really happens. Free and fair election. Has it ever been free? Has it been fair? Do we have the right people in place? I'll never challenge any elected government, but what we're saying is the process that brings this two horse leg race for us, the one that brought us, well, it was three-legged horse race this time. You had Peter Obi, you had Tinubu, and you had Atiku.
Correct.
Right. Each of those primaries made no sense. So you left the people with no real choice because the delegate, each party made up his own way of selecting a front runner. So you see the mirage, you see the what is going on. But the people need to be a bit more aware of what is the alternative. Yeah, there is no much alternative other than we need to. It is about working out the true democratic process. If we actually let it breathe, let the democratic process work, then we might say that, yeah, there will be free and fair election. There will be free and fair principles of democratic government. Whether it's a representative democratic government, which is what I believe what we're trying to practice. There is also, if we are practicing autocrat, is a mixture, is an oligarchy, is a mixture. But to say we're a democratic government, or we practice it, we seem to take a bit of it. Nigeria is a Federal Republic of Nigeria. So by a true sense, we should be democratic in our nature. But because we're a very clever bunch of people, we are very educated people, there has been I'll take a little bit of this, fusion, that. There's been fusion. So what you really have, you can give it any name you want, but please do not call it democratic system. The American system isn't perfect. There's a lot of fundraising as well, which when money and power mix, it gives you a blend of what are we really getting? You know, we're talking about billions of dollars. I mean, like in the Nigerian case, we may never know because nobody's ever come out to say we don't even raise funds in our Nigerian elections. What do? We call it war chests. What does that even mean in the context? You have a war chest of money, don't even bother to contest. If you're spending 100 million naira in today's value, in pounds or in dollars, that's a lot of money.
It is.
For one individual.
And it's probably a lot less than that. It's probably a lot more than 100 million naira, by the way.
Right. That's just the form.
Depending on what you're...
That's just the form, not your campaign.
The form, okay.
Just the form.
Yes.
That's just expression of interest.
Yes.
What about your campaign? The delegates, vote buying,
logistics.
Yeah. So, and these are one man or one party show. It's a lot of money. So we are not even raising funds. So where are these money coming from? So that tells you that it's a complete state capture when they're not there to represent the people. Because there's a lot of investors. Like any businessman, you need to get you need to get a return on your investment.
So I have a question. So thanks for that, for bringing all that together. So you mentioned 1960, you mentioned 1966 with the first military coup that took place in Nigeria, and then you went to 1999, where you talked about Obasanjo coming in through selective process, and obviously we're in 2024 now. Why do you think? So what happened between that 1966 time and current state, and why have we deviated from that era to our own version of what democracy is?
I think the fault line lies in when people have been oppressed for so long.
So through the military
regime, and things started to go bad economically. Man's main purpose, Maslow's need of hierarchy, is You need to survive. Food, shelter is your most important need. So the populace are so beaten down, trodden upon, so much so that their focus isn't on who is governing them. Their focus is about their own survival. And if it means that I get pittance come the next 4 years cycle to go, I need you to vote for this person and give me 100 naira or 1,000 naira or 5,000 naira or however many. Some people are even spending dollars these days. So if I'm getting that, and if that's my dividend, so-called, I'm not agreeing with this, but so-called, if this is all I get in 4 years, this is why I say that the oppressed have no true, they have no stake. They have no stake. The self-worth of individual has been eroded. Bad roads, no lights, failure of the educational system. Young people don't even know their own history. Apparently, might not. Don't quote me on this. Nigerian education system banished history.
That's a fact.
Well, okay. I wasn't sure. So if you banished,
that's a fact.
If you banished history in educational system, there's something wrong.
Yes.
So where do we get
and what is being hidden?
What is being hidden, and who will fill the gaps for? Who fills that gap for those young people? So they're going to be the most educated in the next 20 years or whatever, but their education is missing a big chunk of who they are, their identity
from the past.
Yes. If you don't know where you're coming from, how do you know or learn from the steps that's gone wrong
to know where
you're going and where you're channeling where you're heading to? So that's a big. I was shocked when I heard that, and I thought, right, what is it that our history is not even taught at school? The British still teaches their own history, so why would the Nigerians
not teach theirs?
Yes. So who's gonna fill in the banks? So you leave the chance for somebody to tell your own history. When a certain I think our generation, definitely, we did history. We did languages, the local languages. So Nigerians have lost those foundational elements for their youth of tomorrow. So what we are producing now is progressive, yes, because we are international, but progressive, but yet you've got a lot of foundational elements wrong. So what is wrong with that? That's particularly what's wrong. There's a long answer to your question, which is when people are beaten down, trodden, and there is no way out, the last thing a poor man that cannot feed is thinking about is, am I choosing the right candidate to represent me? No.
So the reason why I asked that question, and the reason why I took us back before we continue to talk about, why you think it's an illusion, is there's several schools of thought that believe that the military era in Nigeria is better. Bridges were built. There was more semblance of, order in terms of discipline. There was fear, yes, as there would be in a military government. But many people have said, hey, during the military, this wouldn't happen. The sums of money that we're hearing about that are being stolen, the sums, the way people flaunt money wasn't like that during the military era. Military era wasn't that bad. Are we suffering from recency bias, or is it a genuine concern?
I think we're suffering from.
Or is there something?
It's an abusive relationship.
Is there something there?
It's like somebody's been in an abusive relationship, and presumably the previous partner was better than the other one. No, that's nonsensical. That's a fallacy to think that any kind of, whether it's democracy, like I said, that the word democracy within the Nigerian or the African, within the African context, within our context, is not new. We've always practiced democracy. We just never called it that.
Like you said, yeah.
So the alien amongst that is the military ruling, because we had our warriors who had one job is to defend and to, to defend integrity of our land. So suddenly having those guys
In governance.
in governance,
But that's not what they're trained for.
that's not what they're trained for. So
Got you.
So to say that the military, no, you tell me. You've been around long enough now. So let's see. From the 70s, would you say 79 Obasanjo gave it to the then democratic government? It was there for 2 years.
Shehu Shagari came in 79.
Right. Okay. So since then, Buhari truncated that.
Yes.
So as a student of history, what happened? We have a descent in every facet of Nigerian economy. Buhari in charge, nobody really wanted him there, even amongst his own colleagues, the military oligarchs.
Babangida took over
over
in 85. Yeah.
Right. Babangida took over, stage managed the whole orchestrated. Yes, they built bridges. Building bridges is not a measure of success of a nation. We didn't put you there to build bridges. Those are given. Those are infrastructural projects that needed to be done anyway to facilitate it is not a case. Here, this build bridges. What does that even mean? What does that mean to build a road or bridges? If you like, don't build it.
Some people say the economy is not just building bridges, but
the economy was. But
the economists.
The 70s, we had $1. We had. I remember my grandmother, God rest her soul. She would say "bongo," which means
£1.
£1. No, £1 to £2. Am I saying this right?
What year was this?
So that's £2 to £1 in the 70s.
Wow.
So my grandmother was not educated, but she was a businesswoman. So that's how they would say in the Oyo region or any Yoruba speaking state, they would say bonko, meaning for every £2, £2 would make £1. That's how strong our currency was.
Yeah.
80s, we got to 1 to 1. By the time Buhari left, things were already going lopsided. IBB got in 85, 86. These guys, we know the story how that went. So how can you say the Nigerian economy was so strong in the military era? What about the damages that were done to the Nigerian psyche? I'm a child of the 80s. So growing up in the 80s, you remember how things were. The scar that you had, the military whipping people on the streets. There was no control. There's godo. There is for last time so I mean go whip your, there's so many things that were done in the 80s in the name of the military government. We are not animals in our own country. So those experiences, those scarring that people had, are still being done in the so-called civilian democratic nature. You get stopped by Nigerian police today, and you might get a slap. You might get a overzealous police officer who will hit you with a butt of a gun.
Yeah.
Where is those mannerisms come from? Indiscipline, perhaps, or so we cannot say the trade-off of having the military is, but everything around it was so wrong. How people were treated. We talked about tolerance. We talked about equity and fairness. If you didn't have any connect within the army or the military, you didn't go anywhere. So how can you say, or how can people have that illusion? Again, that's another illusion or fallacy in this case, that the military...
That it was better.
That was better. There was nothing better about it. It was just, people forced themselves on you.
So, I mean, thanks for that. So the question now for me is, if our democracy is an illusion, then what system are we practicing?
The system we're practicing is exactly what it is. It's an oligarchy system. You can put democracy on the end of it. So oligarchy, democracy, or that's why we're practicing. Yes, we're a Federal Republic of Nigeria. By the sense of republic, we're democratic in a way. We should be. But we have a spin-off, which I believe is a mixture, is a combination of dictatorship. Yes, there's checks and balances. That's what the job of the
Executive, legislature, and the judiciary
should be,
and the media.
but that there's a state capture somewhere, right? So the checks are not always there. Rarely do you get the executive and the legislature get to a stalemate. Never. It might be for a few, just for the media, for it to play out in the media, but they never get in the stalemate that nothing moves. At least you get the illusion of that in the American system. You're passing a budget or needing a budget for war to be passed. But if the parliamentary, I say parliamentary because the British system, the American system, if the legislation don't pass that will never happen. The president is constantly lobbying for that to happen. In the Nigerian system, rarely, even to sign the budget, rarely have you had the legislative stand up against the executive, scrutinize the budget to the level where we're not passing this budget because we need you to answer to this.
There have been delays, though. To be fair,
there have been delays. That's
why
I said about the fourth pillar, which is the media.
Yes.
The delay, we can let it play out
in terms of not signing the budget when they're supposed to sign it and appropriate it into law.
But somebody's already spending against the budget that's not been. I'm not talking about this.
I understand.
This current one.
I understand.
But I'm sure something similar played out during the Buhari regime. So what are we talking about that things... So I think we have a combination of the oligarchy.
Oligarchy, okay.
We have a combination with the autocratic to a certain extent.
Is that, would you say...
Executive power.
Would you say because...
The presidential power in Nigeria is almost...
similar to the Saudi royals, I would say.
We're not monarchy because our monarchies are...
No. I'm saying in the spirit, not in laws. Not everything has to be...
Yeah.
Like the power that the Nigerian president has is one of the highest powers in the world.
Yes, it is.
You agree?
Absolutely. It's near an absolute power. Near absolute.
Which is where the autocratic part is coming into.
So that's what I said. The autocrat, the guys that have to work with him, I say the oligarchies, because they decide who is going to be the next president, at least who's going to be the face of them. And to a certain extent, we have that multi-party, but I say we have a single party. When I say we have a single party system, only one party trumps all the other. Whoever's the central dictates what happens. Everybody falls in line. Because you will be in the... What the politician would say, we're going to be hungry for another 4 years. So, toe the line. Don't rock the boat.
So what Talks was just saying earlier, I mentioned two parties, APC and PDP. Those are still the biggest parties in Nigeria today. And what he was just explaining earlier, viewers, that when one party does get into power, you quite see a lot of people, a lot of big players in the other party cross carpet, as it's called in Nigeria, and join the ruling party because everything really flows. So it's not, so we have a two-party system. It was really one party that sort of like enjoys the spoils of office, for the lack of a better word. And I have a couple of more questions before we round up. And I think this has been an engaging conversation. Viewers, please, this isn't a one-way street. We want you to leave comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have anything else to add to the context of the way we practice democracy in Nigeria? But going back again, back to the 60s, right? So we were granted independence on the 1st of October, 1960. We had a system where, for me, it was a mixed system from the beginning. And I explain what I mean. So we borrowed the parliamentary system of the UK, but then we blended the presidential system of the United States. Bicameral. Is it bicameral? Or bicameral or bicameral? Something like that. I might have got it wrong. Please. Exactly. That's why I need you in the comments. So we have a president and then we have a prime minister. So I'm like, I mean, from my limited history view of history, you either have a president or you have a prime minister. You don't have a prime minister and president. But I now understand why they did that. So the president was ceremonial, but then you now had the the person who was like in charge of the country in terms of the actual power as the prime minister. Now, why I'm asking that question is from 1960 to about 66, when the coup happened that you mentioned earlier, we had a regional system of government.
Right, absolutely.
Now, and from that regional system of government that we had after that coup took place till today as we speak, we've either done the military system or what you call our own democratic system, which is an illusion. Do you think that regional system was better than all the stuff that happened after that? And do you think that's something that, and that's going to segue into sort of like conclusion and final thoughts as to what can we do differently?
I never thought the regional government was never going to solve any problem. Yes.
Why do you say so?
Regional just sounds to me more like tribalism. Regional just seems to like we'll have a group of people. Yeah, that's probably the closest. But just because you group a bunch of Yoruba people together or the Igbos together and have them self-govern doesn't remove your problem. The fundamentals are still going to be carried from Nigeria to your western region or your northern region, northern protectorate, whatever it is.
So they're saying the problems are not homogeneous to just that?
No, because they've perfected it. They've perfected the illusion. So if you then decided to have a Western region government, who are going to form that part of the Western Union? What, or your state, Ondo State? What is Kwara going to be in Western region? Or is that going to be with Northern region? What is it? So to even agree what will constitute that Western region, if we so-called that now, right? You still have to have the four pillars.
The executive, the
you need
legislative.
them to be functioning the way they should. Or are you saying completely, actually, so the State House Assembly, which will be the legislative arm in the way where you decide to have a regional, that State House of Assembly, what produces the State House Assembly is the delegates and then the so-called election. That's selective. That's selective by who this executive governor of that state is. So if we so you're saying get rid of the governor of the state and have one leadership in the Western region. So that person still dictates what happens, or the financial power or the power that be would dictate who the legislatures would be. The judiciary also is in their pocket. So let's not even talk about the media. So the problem isn't whether you decide to have regional government. Yeah, you can have regional policing just to get policing down to the people where the heart of the problem is. I subscribe to that notion of having
from a defensive point of view.
From the defensive, from terrorism, from dealing with the insecurity in the country. Yes. But from the perspective of trying to rule by region, I think that just makes a mess of the whole thing. We already have regional government. That doesn't even work. You have chairmen of the local government. You have councillors of the local government. These guys don't even manage your budget. They get the pittance that flows over from the table of the executive. The local government chairman is supposed to be an authority within his own right.
Correct.
He's the closest to the community that you would ever have in a system.
But how are they being funded?
So we already, if they knew...
Because they're being funded by the state government, aren't they?
That's wrong.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
They're not. This is where I said the default line is wrong. There's the checks and balances, somebody's looking sideways, because as a local government chairman, you have the same executive power within your local community as the state governor has over the state. So your allocation should come directly from the federal government.
But is that in law or is that in spirit?
It's a law.
Yeah, but is that
it's
what
not
actually...
in spirit, because you have...
And that's why I said what I said.
It's a law because you're supposed... The accountant general of the state... I don't know how these things work, but I'm assuming the accountant general of the state... Somebody will have to sign to say, this is my budget for this state.
And this is how much I need. And
this is how much there's been appropriated,
yeah,
and they would have to draw down. So the chairman of the local government should be drawing from the federal, the accountant general
in Abuja.
in Abuja, not the other way around, not going to the state governor, and the chairman then seem to be going to the governor.
That's what I think happens in some states.
I don't know how that felt like. I seem to recall, I believe under Obasanjo's regime, we had chairmen. Chairmen, they were actually in charge. Whether I can understand what it means that certain chairmen were becoming big back then. To be a local government chairman meant something.
Yes.
You were in charge. You had power. You had autonomy. You had control of finances. Yes, some people did abuse that. So did the executive arm. So did the state government.
Yes.
So you cannot, because of that, checkmate so they become a puppet. They are not effective. They cannot even build a road. They cannot repair a road within the local government.
Because everything is going back to the governor.
To the state, relying on the commissioner of works and housing, or commissioner for whatever land. That escapes me right now. So you cannot rely on that. And nowadays, the funny thing is, some of those big commissioners for works, the governors are doubling as the commissioner for works. The governors, the same way that our president, not the current president, but our previous president, was the commissioner, was a minister for petroleum.
The current president is the minister of petroleum
as well.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's what happened.
So what really happens is somebody. So was that ever a rule? Would you say that was in the rule?
That's what I'm saying. Some things are in spirit, some things are in law. There's no law that prohibits the president.
You have your work is too vast already. Why do I need to add more to myself?
No law, I think.
So are
anyway.
you not trusting? Have you not added the segregation of duties? You can still hold somebody responsible without you being in charge.
I think there is a trust thing, but there is viewers. There is a junior minister, what they call junior ministers in the UK. There is a minister of state.
The minister of state is toothless.
For petroleum, but the minister of petroleum in Nigeria, from when I checked last, is the current president.
Wow. So we've carried a bad precedent set by Buhari. We've carried it along in Tinubu's regime. Wow. And there is nobody to check that. We have the finest brains, sands, and highly educated people in the sphere of law in Nigeria, and will allow this to run. So you can see why this illusion. So sometimes it's not even an illusion. They play out. This is autocratic. I'll do what I want. So we allow that to play out in the open. Nobody checks it. Nobody says anything. Nobody batters an eyelid. You might I'm sure people will make noise in the media, whatever it is, and that's the end of it. What else? So this is what I mean by the representation or the illusion that you think you're being ruled by people. There should be consensus in government. There should be consensus in between the people and the government to say, you are representing us, our interest, but that's not happening. So it's quite open. Now, I think the question has been answered. I think it's just pure, I have the power, I grab the power, I do what I want. And to a certain extent, I will try and get the legislation on my side. Judiciary on my side. So what's left really is just, I think it's allowed to place the aristocracy and just blatant Talumamumi kind of, that's the way you're about to say,
who's going to catch me?
Yeah, who's going to stop me?
Who's going to stop me? Yes.
Is a complete, that's what I say, is a state capture. What do I mean by state capture? That's exactly what we just explained. We just spent the last 30 minutes talking about. It's exactly that. Because so self-organizing as a people. When I say self-organizing, I mean that speaking truth to power. Using your medium to speak out. Using challenging back. Those are the little means of trying to say, well, our people are awake. Our people are awoken. Look at what
they're alive to their responsibilities.
They're alive to their responsibilities, but you can't be docile. But I've said when a man or woman's first means is about survival,
Maslow's role, yeah. Food, shelter, clothing, you said.
So those issues now become okay. As long as I can eat today, we worry about tomorrow. So let's never even worry about who's governing us today. So, but the problem is multifaceted, and we cannot. I don't think we have any answers to it. I'm not saying democratic government is a good idea conceptually, but in practice, China practices its own single party,
Yeah.
guided by the
communism?
constitution.
Mixture.
CP is a communist party, CPC or something like that. That's what they are, and they're guided by the constitution that allows you to have single party system.
And it works.
It works. What are you measuring it by? So freedom of speech. So I'm not in the.
No, why I said it works is, it's an open question as well. It works, and it's a great question, as you said, in terms of what are you looking at. If you're looking at it from economic terms, if you're looking at it from freedom of speech, then you might even be looking at it from different lens, like from
but we have to look at it collectively.
Okay.
Tolerance, equity, and parity.
Fairness, yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't have that, you can have the most successful economy, but your people are fearful to speak truth to power. So it's not true democracy in the real sense of it.
But they're not Democrats though.
They practice that. That's why it is a single party system. They're not ruled by the military, so they are democratic in their own way. But we can fashion out our own democratic system, which we seem to already fashion now. We just don't give it a name. At least in China, they call it a single party system. If Nigerians come out today, or any bold president is able to find a way within the constitution to do that, yes. But there will be challenge.
So final question, and this has been really engaging. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, share, and like for more engaging content. So final question, what is the way forward? You've said a lot about it being a mirage in terms of democracy. You've touched around the military era where we are. You've talked about the 4 pillars. What can we do differently? And the reason why I asked what can we do differently is because we have a constitution. So when the Fourth Republic ushered a new constitution, obviously there was a 1979 constitution, and then you also have I think we've had 3 constitutions, but the most recent one is the 1999 constitution as amended that came in. What can we do? Is it more of papering the cracks, or is it more of changing the things that need to be changed within this current constitution? Is it throwing it away? Is it bringing in a new system of governance or government? What can we do differently?
I don't think, again, spending a lot of, it's another paper exercise, rewriting the constitution, changing the style of governance or whatever. We talked about those 4 pillars. Get it right. So firstly, is awakening of our people. The citizens have to demand of their leadership. So when, quite recently, the so-called the pushback from the people, which we were gathering around and trying to gather momentum that for it wasn't civil disobedience, but really protest about hardship in Nigeria.
Is it the end bad governance one?
End bad governance.
Yes.
They got the concept right, but the logistics and how that was going to be carried out was the challenge. People, you will feel that the Nigerian populace are moved by the plight of what they're going through daily. That gives you an indication. In some towns and some cities, there was movement.
Yes.
But that fizzled out. That tells you that when people, a broken man don't even know he's right. that they have the voice, they have the say. Until people are they can self actualize, they can get together and mobilize to show that, hey guys, you are not paying attention, you're not taking heed to what we need. These are requirements. Only then will things change. It doesn't matter. It's all become theoretical.
So it's back to the people.
It's back to the people. The ball is in the people's hand, but for people to recognize they have the power. It is rule of the people, by the people, for the people. So that middle part, by the people, meaning you need to challenge and fight back that system that's providing, that's holding you back, that's given that selective personnel's holding over 200 people to ransom.
200 million.
200 million people to ransom. On another note, I think I'll challenge that. What is our true population in Nigeria? I think that's a matter for...
We'll probably take that another time.
200 million people. Who's counting?
Yes.
Yes, I know. We know for a fact what the fact is. Nigerian population is quite youthful.
Yes.
Probably in the next 30 years, Nigeria will have the most population of youth, probably mostly unemployed.
Yes.
And that is worrying.
I think over 70% are under 30 or 35, something like that.
So if we are, then we need to take heed now. Our political leaders and people in power need to think about the future tomorrow, where the industrialized nations are moving to. We need to really work with that population, so-called 200 million, but our census, we haven't released a census. Nigeria hasn't released
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yes.
And if we're really going to talk about census, really, I think it's lopsided.
Yes.
We had the biggest city in the southwest and the south, some part of the southeast, and yet certain population is coming from
the north,
from certain part of the country.
Yes,
so we really need to. I'm not even going to go there. But the point is, the power is with the people.
With the people,
Educating our people, sensitizing our people. Not every 4 years, but doing that before that election cycle kicks in. Get the people sensitized about their right. Why, if they choose wrong, they stuck with that for another 4 years. Power lies with the people. Don't change the constitution, please. That's a whole paper exercise. That's just to fill the media slots, I think. That's just to keep us entertained. It's a mirage. So when I hear all these, it's good idea, theoretical, but it's the human beings behind that. If you don't change, it's just the same way the military changed into the Agbadas and became politicians of today.
But the mindset
has never changed. So how they got better at it. How we rule with iron fist, but we're in the democratic system. We're supposed to rule by consensus, but I do what I want. So it's not the system, it's the people. So the leaders are coming from amongst us. Yes, selective or otherwise, but it's still from the people. So the system is what we need to challenge. The legislative system. Do your
So the
work.
people have to. You're saying that your advice.
You hold all those different arms, from your state house assembly to your local government chairman to the local councillor. It's about us, within the people, that makes the system. And if we're not doing if we're not honoring those pillars, then something will fall down. And in our case, all 4 pillars are faulty.
So here's a question, here's a final question, and then we'll wrap this up. It's been really, really engaging. And thank you, Tokes, for honoring me. How can the people do that in the face of poverty? There's so much poverty in Nigeria at the moment.
There's a sample of that you just seen during the NBAD government.
Exactly. And
Something
people, food, shelter, clothing. Yes.
The government, for the first time, the government sat, something is, whether it's a security information they had that we did not have, I'm not sure. But the government suddenly,
they were jittery.
They were jittery. There was suddenly we're all ears. We're listening.
They tried to stop it.
They tried to stop it. There was counter protest. That's a lot of money. There's a lot of mobilization they have to do on their own part to dose that fire down. So they are proactive when they need it to. So that shows the power of the people. Even the people in government suddenly were on the side of the people. Like, look, every governor start, either you're on the side of the people or you're playing a game, but they started to listen. So that gave you a little insight into, if you demand your right, what is rightfully yours, these guys need you to stay in power. And we saw that example. That was just a little litmus test paper. They said, look, they were shaking in the boots. Maybe there was something a lot more that we did not see, but they were quaking in the boots. And that shows the people power, the consensus of the people, regardless. A hungry man, an angry man is an angry man is an angry man.
Correct.
An angry man is an angry man. A man or woman that cannot take their children to hospital for the basic amenities is a dire situation. And if people do not self-organize and challenge and ask for their rights, you will never be given. Power is never given to anybody. We're not asking to take power. We're just asking that the people in power ask of them what they really need to be doing for the community to lead, food shortages, insecurity. Forget anything else. Just deal with insecurity.
The basics,
For that 4-year term,
Yeah.
just help deal with insecurity. Everything else before. Don't build any more roads, please. We don't need any more roads. Nigerians don't need any more roads. Just insecurity, please.
On that, we can talk forever, as you guys can see. Talks is a very engaging guest, and I thank you for your time. We could talk about this forever, but on that note, we're going to be ending this one here. You've talked about a lot of things, and it is a civic duty, and it is a right for citizens to go out, in a peaceful manner to hold those in the 4 pillars, as you mentioned, accountable. And perhaps that's the real power is the people, because at the end of the day, it's the people that actually go out to vote, people who actually go in and work for us in the true sense of democracy. I do hope that we will have more conversations, but I just wanted to thank you for my guy.
Yes, brother.
Thank you very much, and lovely dashiki, by the way.
I have to represent.
Yes.
So you too, bro.
Cheers. And we'll see you in the next one.